Ladies and gentlemen, hi, your old pal Jason here. Doing something a little different. I've done a total of one React video in the past, and this is so it's a new thing for me, right? We've got a lovely pre-made template for the thing. We, I mean, it's for streaming. I changed it a little bit, but it's all right. Don't worry about that. What we're gonna do, if you look over here, you see some album art, and it's not great album art. The best version of this I could find online was a whopping 300 by 300. This is an album from a band called Everything, and it's an album called Supernatural, and it spawned a couple of singles. The biggest one that you're probably familiar with is Hooch, or The Hooch, if you're into your prepositions. Preposition? I don't remember. But here's the thing. I happen to really enjoy this album, and not a lot of people are familiar with it. Okay? And I think that's a damn shame, because I think it's only 10 tracks, 11 ish. There's one of those hidden tracks, right? This came out in 98, so that was a big thing. Um, there's 10 tracks in that 4 minute ish range, except for the last one with the hidden one. It's like 14. Um, I've shared this album with friends who are very into music in the past, and they've all pretty much said, "Wow, this is really damn good. Why aren't we listening to this?" And the reason, I think Hooch is not the strongest song on the album. It's not the weakest song on the album, I don't think, though it depends on your sensibilities. I'm going to, because I forgot to do it, pull up what little I know of the band Everything from the band's Wikipedia page. Oh, they have a band page. Oh God, how old is this? Well, last year. Hey, barbecue sauce. This is gonna be a hoot. It's bud, not butt. Horticulture, baby. Uh, some everything socks, a tumbler. Wow. So, so the band. Let's. Oh, they have a thing. Cool. New Year's Eve, 1998. You're walking along the Potomac River waterfront just before midnight. A mist is coming off the river. Cars whiz along the Whitehurst Freeway, standing 30 feet in the air, and cries of revelers rise from the nearby streets of Georgetown. But what calls you is a rumbling beat, bass lines reverberating nearby. You trace the sound to an unassuming two-story building huddled under the elevated highway. Now that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm I'm literally enjoying it. I'm not making fun. Everything American alternative rock band from Harrisonburg, Virginia, best known for their 1998 hit Hooch. They have been active from 1989 to present. Wow. Good job. Formed in 1989 by students at James Madison, going on the road full time in 92, played 200 to 250 shows a year for the next 10 years. Gradually expanding their grassroots fan base till extended half across the US, released its first three albums independently, selling almost 30,000 CDs before signing a brief yet ill-fated deal with Capricorn Records in 95. R.I.P. Larger scale success signed with indie label Blackbird, who funded the recording of the Supernatural album, the one we're going to listen to, and whose Uplift venture with Sire London eventually provided the radio and distribution muscle that got the breaking single Hooch to top radio stations around the world. Their peak of popularity came in 98 when Hooch was featured in The Waterboy. Well, a lot of things were featured in The Waterboy that we don't need to talk about, but this is a good one. They reveled in the newfound popularity, playing radio shows, festival crowds around the country. Hooch has been heard in episodes of My Name is Earl. See, that's better. Raising Hope, that's better. Yes, dear, and is that yes, comma, dear, or is it yes, dear, comma? You know what I mean? Clueless and Scrubs. Following the AOL Time Warner merger, the dissolution of all joint ventures under the Warner Music Group, band was independent. They released People Are Moving in a co-distribution deal with What Are Records in 2001. Is corn grass? The band toured internationally in Japan and Korea before taking a hiatus, reconvened in 2004 to record the album In the Juju Underworld, which was not released until 2006. I like that album name. So they've got 6 studio albums. Supernatural came in at 173, peaked on the charts. But I happen to think it's a damn good album. And I know a lot of people who do these react things will do them to things they're familiar with or unfamiliar with, excuse me. There's a couple of people I watch who will do something they are kind of familiar with, or they're not aware they're familiar with it until it happens, till they hear it and like, aha, I've heard this. This is Steely Dan. They played at the grocery store, which, as everybody knows, was Steely Dan's long-term goal. So we're going to do a little different. This is an album I'm very familiar with. I haven't listened to it in a very long time because I've been doing audiobooks, new music, other things. But I thought, let's track by track go through this album until I get sued horribly. Or whatever. We'll see how it goes. We'll listen to the tune together, you and me, as a team, and see how we feel about it at the end. So, our first outing is the first track on Everything's album, Supernatural, and that is the title track, Supernatural. So, I'll go. That is too big. I will turn off the mic while we listen. Sorry. Apparently I shouldn't do that while that's open. So, here's the interesting thing to me about this album. If you're familiar with Hooch, which we'll listen to next time, that sounds nothing like Hooch. This is very, very different. The energy is different. The whole vibe is different. Stylistically, it's very different than Hooch. Hooch is almost could have been like Jimmy Buffett, Jack Johnson, almost like a Jason Mraz kind of thing. Supernatural. I don't even know what the hell, you know. A little Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, a little Big Head Todd and the Monsters. Excuse me. There's going to be a lot of comparison to those bands while we listen, because that's really the closest thing I could think of. Like if Big Head Todd and the Boss Tones had a baby, right? You get everything. It's an interesting saxophone solo. I want to talk about that right off the bat because it doesn't seem to really be like, the song's over here, living in its little tonal neighborhood, and then just the weirdos from out of town just come plowing in, boom, and that's the saxophone solo in this. I don't know who the saxophone player was on that track. I was looking for it, can't actually find it. Let me do a little more digging real quick. It's I don't think it's a particularly musical solo myself. Let's see. Richard Bradley, according to this, plays tenor sax. That was a tenor sax. I wouldn't say it's like a Leroy Moore or Jeff Coffin level solo. Again, living in that kind of sort of jam bandy kind of thing. Leroy Moore, Dave Matthews, Jeff Coffin playing with Dave Matthews now, but also Bela Fleck and the Flecktones and a couple other projects. Production wise, and this comes to that saxophone solo a little bit. Production wise, I think this whole album is really very good. There's a lot going on. And if you sit and you get some good headphones or a good pair of speakers and you give yourself some air, some room to listen to the album in, and you just, click in with it, and you pick one thing. Just get it in your mind, close your eyes, take out all other distractions, pick one instrument and just follow it. They're very tight. They got a very great groove. On this tune especially, it's a little more driving. It's not the most driving tune on the album, but it's up there. It lyrically, it's very fun. There's a track we'll listen to a little later that it's almost like a Mardi Gras kind of vibe to it, and this kind of teases that a little bit. Like to go back to our street metaphor, it's like watching it from across the street. Like you're having a party. It's pretty good. There's a band there. One of the guys is from New Orleans. Everybody else isn't. So that's kind of his contribution. There's another track coming up that, like I said, is going to be much more like, oh yeah, this could be like height of carnival. It'd be there. Not like Dr. John's going to cover it, but because he's dead. But it's pretty good, man. I enjoy. I really like the drummer. I closed the window. That was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Drummer. Who's playing drums here? Nate Brown. Percussion, drums, and vocals. Speaking of vocals, saxophone player, saxophone, guitar, and vocals. That's Richard Bradley. Nate Brown, drums, percussion, and vocals. Craig Honeycutt, guitar and lead vocals. Mark Reinhardt, keyboard, trumpet, trombone, vocals. David Slankard, bass, no vocals. Stephen Van Dam, another guitar, another saxophone, alto this time, clarinet, vocals, and then Terrence Wolf Quinn coming in on keyboards and trombone, no vocals. So you got a whole band that sings for the most part, and we'll hear some of that a little later as well. But just picking apart this one, we're not going to get like into theory, and we're not going to get into production wise, how did they record, what mics did they use on the bass, or did they DI the whole thing? We're not going to do any of that. We listened. I really enjoy this track, though I will say, of the 10 on the album, and I've got the track list up, this might actually be my least favorite song, for as good as it is. It's a really good opening tune, because you get that little like noodling around build up thing at the beginning, and then boom, we hit. Here's a train. This is very forceful, wanting you to know there's a train. So that just hits, and where it's just the guitar, and it's almost sounds like it's on a loop if you go back and listen to it again, because you can almost hear where it like jumps back. You know what I'm saying? But it sets up everything really well. And it sounds so sparse, that guitar at the beginning, because it's got some filters on it and all that other stuff. But then when the whole band comes in, it's just boom. It's just big, and it's thick, and it's heavy. But it's not ponderous heavy. There's some oomph to it, and it's got this really, like, the bass line is just really sub bass line, and it doesn't move. Well, it moves, but it doesn't move in a way like a walking bass would move. Unfortunately, in a lot of pop music at this time, if you listen to a lot of top 40 music, bass guitar in the late 90s was god awful boring. It was, you play eighth notes, okay? That's what you do. You're going to play the root, and you're going to play eighth notes. That's it. You don't do anything else. Don't try and get fancy, because we have a guitar player who's going to just be playing power chords, and everybody needs to hear what they're doing, because it's boring too. But it's a guitar. Nobody likes bass players. That's a 90s thing, okay? You with me on that? It's a late 90s thing. But it's so if I went and grabbed a bass and I played along with it, I would be like an octave above where the bass in this song is, because it's been probably with an octaver pedal with the dry turned down. And it just makes this huge low end platform for everything else to stand on, which works out really well with this, because the guitar, there's like no bottom to it at all. It's boxy, but not in a bad way. And the drums are just hitting everything they need to hit. You've got some auxiliary percussion. There's some congas in there that add to it, but don't distract from it, at least for me. And then the horns are doing the job in this that almost an organ would do. You know what I mean? Like if you had some extra keys in there, that's kind of what, in my mind, they would be doing, what the saxophones are doing. One thing I really appreciate, and we're going to talk production a little bit, because I think this is important. I think it's important to talk about this. And if I could, do a visual aid without it being terrible, I probably would. But I'm going to do a terrible visual aid anyway, because some people are visual, which, unfortunate for you, I am not. And if you wanted me to draw you a stick figure, it would be abstract at best. So if you imagine, maybe I won't even have to draw. If I can do a good enough job of explaining this. Imagine your 5 band, your 15 band, your 31 band EQ. You got all your sliders, your up and down little sliders. Each instrument in the band drums, guitar, bass guitar, horns, keyboards, vocals, percussion. Everything lives in a range. Take that neighborhood we kept talking about, right? The bass guitar lives in this house. The guitar lives in this house. Horns live in this house. Everybody's got a house. The couple of people that can really like go anywhere are drums. Drums cover a lot of range, and keyboards. Keyboards cover a lot of range. And drums do because you've got a bass drum up to cymbals, and cymbals are way up here. Bass drums way down here. Piano, low notes way over here. High notes way over here. Guitar has low notes and high notes, but a guitar, if you were to plot out the notes on a guitar and a piano, it's very small. It's not a very big range. Tenor saxophone, alto saxophone, same thing. Bass guitar lives way down here with the piano left hand and the bass drum. Guitar kind of covers the other portion of the middle, like the middle third. Vocals can plus or minus that a little bit. Same with the guitars. One thing that when I have recorded music, and I think these guys do pretty well, is they are very aware that everybody has a house. And you don't try and EQ the tenor saxophone into the bass guitar neighborhood. And, the tenor guy doesn't come into the bass guitar player's yard, and vice versa. You don't scoop your EQ. So if that's your EQ, oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? There's your 5-band right there. That's flat, pretend. What you get with some music, and I used to be guilty of this, and I learned too late that this was not great. So you get some where they boost their lows, they drop their mids, and they boost their highs. The other, and extrapolate this out for the number of things you got. Now this, pardon me for bumping the mic, this sounds really good if you're listening to it, but there's a problem with this. This is a scoop that you'll see a lot of in heavy music, metal music, etc., etc. And you do that because you want to feel it. You want that just aggressive rah, rumble kind of thing. That's what this way over here on the low side gets you. Okay. Well, if you look at this, you say, your piano and your drums, they live all of this. This is low. This is high. Your bass guitar kind of lives right here. Your vocals kind of live over here. Your tenor sax lives here. Your guitar lives here. Your alto sax is over here with the trumpet. Trombone covers tenor sax range. You don't EQ these to be in this range. You don't force your trumpet and your alto sax to live in your bass guitar house. When you do that, what you end up with is a muddy mess. And one thing that I've learned, again, too late, and one thing I've tried to teach when I have taught music lessons is, especially to guitar players, this is where your notes live. So we've condensed this for guitar now. This is where your notes live. You can beef up your bottom end, you can boost your top, but if you drop your middle, it's just sound like mud. There's going to be no definition to any of your sound. And this album, I go through all of that. I got away without having to draw anything. This album handles that so well. It is one of the best produced albums I have heard. And I've heard some very good ones. I've heard some very bad ones. This one is a very good one, and I think that adds to its listenability. Some bad ones, I would say, and this is not saying that the songs are bad or the music is bad. You take something like Metallica's Saint Anger. Now, that one, I don't care for. I don't care for Metallica much at all, individual members or group as a whole. Not entirely true, but for the most part. If you take a song off of that album and you put it in a spectrum analyzer on your computer or whatever, and you want to look at the waveform, it's a brick. Everything lives in this little strip right here. Now, that strip could be very loud, but everything has this little tiny range because everything's so compressed and squeezed down. It makes it very hard to listen to. It makes it very tiring to listen to because there's no air in anything. There's no space in the sound. Dream Theater is another one that I really enjoy some Dream Theater. Don't enjoy all the members of Dream Theater, but I really enjoy some Dream Theater. But they have the same kind of thing. Everything's just so squished. And it makes it hard to listen to long term because your ears get tired. Yeah, because it's just one volume for 18 minutes. Neutral Milk Hotel, to pick a very not rock thing. Do I have that album? I don't know that I have this album. Let me look real quick. I don't. Great songs on this album. I'm gonna have to look it up so I don't tell you guys the wrong thing. Neutral Milk Hotel. I can see it in my mind. It's green. This one. And the Airplane Over the Sea. There's some really good songs on this album. I have a really hard time listening to it because of how it was recorded. And this album, and it's maybe one we'll listen to later, it is kind of like we took home it's intentionally low quality, I think. Like we took home recording techniques and we did them in the studio. There's some really good songs on this album. I just have a hard time listening to it because it is so overly compressed. Right? Not to the point that it's like got that pumping thing, not like that kind of compressed. Anyway, we're getting into that. Great songs, not great production. Really well produced albums. Guns N' Roses' Chinese Democracy. It's not a great album, but it's a great production on that album. I think this is a really well produced album. The Dave Matthews album Before These Crowded Streets, also very well produced, I would say. What's another really good one? I want to try and give you at least three. You know, three to go and check out if any of this interests you at all. There's just a lot. Jukebox the Ghost, great band. Lots going on in their albums. They suffer the same thing. It's just too compressed and too tight. The sound's gotta have room. And even in recordings, it's gotta have room. James McMurtry, Horses and the Hounds. That's another fantastically produced album. Everything's got room. Everything has its own space to exist in. Nobody's crowding out anybody. That's what I think this Everything album does. This has gone on way longer than I thought it was going to, by the way. I apologize. But thanks for sticking with me. Before we move on, and when I say move on, I mean wrap up. The reason I grabbed this picture, I can't find this album. Okay? Like I've looked for it on a couple of streaming services. I can't find it. I have found other Everything albums. I can't find this one. So if you are able to find Everything albums, you cannot borrow mine. I still have my copy of this. Bought it. Brand new. Still have it. Damn good album. do your best to track it down if you want to listen, or just wait for these to come out. But I would encourage you to try and find it and listen to it on your own, whether you purchase it, stream it, whatever. Um, you will not be disappointed, I don't think, if you enjoy a variety of music, because that's really the first thing that caught my attention when I listened to this album all the way through. There's 10 songs. No two are the same. They have similarities, but they're not the same. I know that probably doesn't make sense, but stick with me, it will. So that's the album. If you want it, go and track it down, give it a listen, do some homework, ask some questions, give me your thoughts on some of this stuff. If this is something y'all like, maybe we'll consider doing it. Maybe once a week, for as long as I can, get away with it. Because I don't want the channel to get in trouble, and I don't want to piss off anybody. So I'm not gonna do like, here's the new Taylor Swift album. I'm gonna tell you a story. I don't know what Taylor Swift sounds like. I don't. It could be on the radio. I'll have no idea. No clue. So we're not going to do stuff like that. We'll dig into some more obscure stuff if this is something that you guys enjoy and want to keep doing. Looking through the list here, I've got some Eels might be a good one to do. Probably not Deep Purple. Isley. I think Isley had some really good songs. We mentioned Dave Matthews and Bela Fleck. Those would be a no. So, yeah. Let me know what you thought. Moving on, we're not going to have this much nonsense at the end. I apologize. And I'm going to do my damnedest. Okay, because I've see other people do these videos. One thing I can guarantee you I'm not going to do is listen to 30 seconds, pause, talk for 2 minutes, rewind back 15 of those 30 seconds, play another 30, pause, talk for 2 minutes, rewind back. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. That drives me nuts. And if you do that in your videos, your React videos, please don't. Please don't. Take some notes. Listen to the thing 2 or 3 times, and then come back and talk to us. So that's it. That's all I got. I will decide what we're going to do for the next one. I mean, if there's going to be a next one, based on what YouTube says I'm okay with on this video, because I don't quite know how the rules for these work anymore. It seems to change every few months. And what your response to it is. How's that? Sound good? Perfect. Catch you later.